There is a sense in Scotland these days of a change in the wind, of adjustments being made, both the stage and the players on it readying themselves for another round in a centuries-old dance. This is the Cowal Highland Gathering in Dunoon, the largest in the world, they say. Not even the rain's strong enough to keep people away. Where better to put a finger on the pulse of Scottish nationalism?
Independence is the only way that Scotland actually can get out of this mess.
Many Scots, Pauline Clark included, say they feel like spectators while politicians in London decide their fate. Stephen Watson agrees, but doesn't think he'll ever see an independent Scotland.
I want to be rich and famous, but I'm not going to be rich and famous. Scotland's just the only country that refused independence.
Scotland and England were bound together by the Acts of Union in 1707, two kingdoms united into one. Nearly 300 years later, in 1999, the Scottish Parliament would be reconvened here in Edinburgh. It stirred old longings, the dream of independence, never far from the surface. In 2014, 55% of Scots rejected independence in a referendum. Part of the reasoning for some, though, was fear that if Scotland left the United Kingdom, it would also be forced to leave the European Union. Since then, of course, everything's been turned on its head. And people are changing their minds. This summer, a new poll found a majority of Scots now favour leaving the UK.
When we had the independence referendum, I was the only person in my family who didn't vote independence.
Leslie MacDonald identifies as both British and Scottish.
I feel almost cornered now. If it's being part of the UK or being part of Europe, then I feel then it has to be Europe. So yes, now I would vote independence.
That shifting portrait is something the governing Scottish National Party is hoping will unmoor Scotland from the United Kingdom once and for all.
Ian Blackford!
Ian Blackford is the SNP's House Leader at Westminster, a thorn in the side of Britain's governing Conservatives.
On this shambolic government.
Every week I go down to London and back up.
Back in his constituency in the Scottish Highlands, he says a second independence referendum is on the cards.
The key element is that circumstances have changed. We were told that our future as citizens in Europe would be respected. That is no longer the case.
A recent survey of Britain's Conservative Party membership found that a majority would be willing to see Scotland leave the UK as long as they still get Brexit. Hardly an invitation for Scots to want to stay.
You've got a job to do.
But Blackford insists the case for Scottish independence must stand on its own.
It is anti-democratic of any politician in London to stand in the face of that.
Ben Nevis, the highest peak in the whole of the British Isles. It's called the Mountain with its head in the clouds, a good place for dreamers. The distillery named after it has been making whiskey since 1825.
Cask number 144.
But the industry fears Brexit might change that.
It now looks, and it certainly looks like it's very much going to be a no-deal Brexit.
General Manager Aaron Ross says it's already sparked a run on whiskey from customers worried about post-Brexit tariffs. Distillers also worry that Scotch whiskey might lose the special geographical designation it enjoys under EU law.
934.8.
But that doesn't mean everyone thinks another referendum is the answer, at least not on Scottish independence.
I think the last thing that any of us need at the moment is another vote on anything until we get resolution on the vote previous to that.
That, though, may be a long time coming. And in the meantime, Scotland's nationalists see their chance coming into view, the prize within reach. Each time the frame shifts and blurs at Westminster, it becomes clearer for those up here who still yearn for Scottish independence. Margaret Evans, CBC News, Dunoon.